I'm Drew Taylor, and welcome into another edition of Valpo Sports Night. On today's show, we'll discuss the Crusader baseball team, the Stanley Cup playoffs, as well as the NBA. First, let's meet my guests here, Colin Terrell, VUTV Assistant Sports Director, and Jeff Larson, WVUR Sports Broadcaster. Guys, some Valpo topics first. The Crusader softball team suffered a midweek loss at Notre Dame. However, they still remain atop of the Horizon League. Are they still the favorite to win the conference championship?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, you stand 12-0 in the Horizon League. You really only have to go up against, there's a huge Loyola series coming up on the 28th and 29th, I believe. But especially coming off a 12-win streak, and you get beat by Notre Dame, who's a pretty decent team out of the Big East. Yep. You just have to be careful of the letdown. You don't want to get on that extended losing streak after winning 12 in a row, thinking it's going to happen again. Just don't force things, because that's when stuff's going to really come.
Yeah, I definitely agree with everything you said. I mean, you're undefeated in conference. You've only lost one game at home. And plus, if you also think of it, if you look at that lineup 1 through 9, they're hitting over 300, which is insane. And Alex Legesse and Sam McGee are pitching phenomenal, especially if you have 7 shutouts, and all of your complete games are from those two people. I mean, Jordan Rukowski has been playing out of her mind. I think she's in like the top 25 at like Player of the Year or something.
Yeah, yep.
So I mean, if this team can continue, playing great and pitching great, I don't think anyone can beat this team.
We'll get to Rukowski in a minute, but I want to talk about the pitching staff. Do you think it's consistent enough? I mean, Sam McGee had a very good weekend. Then at Notre Dame had a hiccup. Her 2 innings when she started, not so good. Alex just had to come in, and she really did well the rest of the way. But is there any problem there? I mean, we mentioned the lineup 1 through 9. It's pretty potent. I guess my only question mark is the pitching. Do you guys agree?
Go ahead. I don't think it's going to be that big of a deal. I mean, obviously, when you're on an 11-game winning streak, you're obviously going to have one of those games. You're obviously going to have a little bit of a bump in the road. Sure. But I think when you get back into conference play, I think you're going to start to calm down. You're going to get more comfortable because, as you said, that Notre Dame team. I mean, I think they lost like 31 now to them.
Right.
Which again, it's not going to put a damper on your record and all that. That's just like an out of conference game and all that. I just think what matters is if when you get into conference and you win. That's all that matters now.
Yeah, if you look at the Notre Dame game, I mean, the Valpo team had 2 errors, which really caused a lot of those runs to score. And, I mean, it wasn't like they were just knocking the seams off the ball. It was, base hit, bloop single, stuff like that. It was just, it kind of all pieced together. But I really don't think, especially when you're 12-0 in conference, you really have anything to worry about.
I hope it doesn't ruin the mood of this team, though, because, again, in the broad scheme of things, a loss to a non-conference good opponent like Notre Dame is really not that big of a deal. I mean, you go into it, you want to win, obviously. But again, broad scheme of things, not that big of a deal. They have to refocus the rest of the way with their Horizon League schedule.
Well, and also, too, just to add on that, they were down 12-0, I think, over the weekend.
To Youngstown State.
Yeah, to Youngstown State, and look what happened. They scored 13 straight. I mean, obviously, when you have something like that, that's definitely going to motivate you for the rest of the year.
Yeah, what a luxury you have. I mean, you fall down 12-0 in the first 2 innings, and you go, okay, well, we'll score 13 and win it in the bottom of the 7th.
Yeah, there you go.
Again, their offense is unbelievable. Specifically, Jordan Rukowski, who I want to touch on quickly. Crusader catcher, again, in the top 25 running for Player of the Year. She's just had a magnificent season. Do you see her maybe getting Player of the Year? At least in the Horizon League.
Oh, the Horizon League, no doubt about it. I mean, she's like #1 in average, home runs, RBIs. Yeah. I mean, she plays that catcher position better than anybody. I mean, as far as for National Player of the Year, it's going to be a long road. Yeah. But as far as for Horizon League Player of the Year, I mean, she's going to be the unanimous winner.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you got the big name schools who are always going to get more attention for Player of the Year as far as nationally. But when you're first and second in every major statistical category offensively, and Haley Thomas, who's probably her biggest opponent in the Horizon League, and she's only in the top 10 in 2 categories. I don't think there's any doubt about it.
Fair enough. Let's switch gears now to the baseball team. The Horizon League schedule is winding down for the VU baseball team. The regular season title may be out of reach at this point, but do you see them making a run in the Horizon League tournament, maybe upsetting a Wright State?
It's going to be a long road because if that offense does not start turning it around, it's going to be a long season. Yeah. Because you saw what happened against Indiana State. After they had that run in the top of the 4th, they go 11 straight innings where they don't even score a run. I mean, I think it was like 3 times in extra innings. They had the bases loaded, only 1 out, and they don't even score.
Yeah. Right.
So, but I mean that pitching staff again is doing great. Kevin Wild has been great. Kyle Wormington has been playing well. So I just think if that offense does not start turning it around, you're going to see a lot of 2-1, 1-0 games where they're going to be losing.
Yeah, I mean, they played a lot of extra inning games. I think they're, 5-3 or something like that,
Yeah,
extra
something
innings.
like
But
that.
when you have a team ERA below 4 like they do, it's going to, I mean, that definitely helps you, especially if the bats start warming up. You have a big series against Wright State, a 3-game series, which you never know what could happen. Wright State's lost a lot of close games lately. I think they're on a 3-game losing streak. But if they get the bats going and the pitching stays the same, they should be able to make it pretty deep into the tournament.
You mentioned getting the bats going, but when is it going to get going? I mean, the weather's starting to turn around. There's not the excuse that, we've been inside all winter. Give us a little transitional period. Okay, now it's deep into the Rising League schedule. You're making that stretch run, and the bats still haven't come alive. Do you see any flip-flopping in the lineup necessary, or what potential?
I don't think you'll see necessarily any flip-flopping because look what happened last year. They got off to like a 1-16 start, and they started turning it around in the Horizon League. When you looked at this year, they had that big win over down in Arkansas. I think that's what it was.
Yep.
They were a top 5 team in the nation.
Yeah.
You figured at that time they're going to start turning it around because that was a huge win for the program. But if, again, don't count them out. I mean, they're only 3 games back. And, again, I mean, Valpo can turn around at any time. It's just that offense has just got to start turning it around.
Yeah, and hitting is contagious. I mean, when everyone's hitting, everything's going good. When no one's hitting, it seems just to kind of spread through. It's just kind of, you have to stay positive eventually. As long as you trust your coaches, as long as you trust your abilities, it'll come around.
If they get hot at the right time, look out. I mean, this team has the ability to make a run. We'll see what happens.
For sure.
On that note, we'll take a quick time out, but when we come back, we'll discuss the Stanley Cup playoffs, as well as some early season surprises around Major League Baseball. You're watching Valpo Sports Night. Stay tuned. Back here on Valpo Sports Night, again joined by Colin Terrell, VUTV Assistant Sports Director, and Jeff Larson, Sportscaster for WVUR. Guys, there have been a lot of cheap hits and downright dirty plays in this year's NHL Stanley Cup playoffs that I can even remember ever happening. Is there anything that the NHL needs to do to try to combat this?
This is going to take away the whole point of the game in the NHL. I mean, obviously, you're obviously going to see a lot of these dirty hits, but I mean, that's just a part of the game. I mean, you don't want the NHL to turn into the NFL, where you're basically able to touch you, say, suspension, 3 games, you're done. Okay. I mean, it's a part of the game, but I think it also depends on the hit as well. Yeah. I mean, if you're obviously going for the puck and you're on the board, obviously you're not going to get called for that. But when it's like no one around you and you're just cheap shotting them on purpose, then obviously you're going to have to make that call. But again, this is playoff time. I mean, to me, I'm not a very big, hockey type fan, but the playoffs for the NHL are the greatest time because, again, anybody can win at any time. I mean, look at the playoffs right now. I mean, Vancouver, who was supposed to win, they're down 3-1 to the Kings of all teams. I mean, the Red Wings have been a good playoff team. They're down 3-1. So again, any team can win at any time. I just think you're seeing a lot of these underdog teams really getting physical, and I think it's going to be a wake up call.
Yeah, I'm a huge hockey fan, and when you get over a 7-game series, when you see the same guys 7 times within 2 weeks, of course things are going to get chippy, but you have the hits like the Rafi Torres hit on Marian Hossa, which was just scary to watch, and he wasn't playing the puck. He left his feet. I mean, that's clear intent to knock him out. I mean, of course, they could be saying, it's retaliation for the Mike Smith hit from Saturday where, Andrew Shaw knocked the goalie down. But there's something behind that. They really need to be forceful, especially in playoff time they're not going to allow this stuff. Rafi Torres is a repeat offender, so they need to lay out, a 10-game suspension, something like that. But like you said, you can't take away hits from hockey. It's part of the game. That's what it is. Playoff hockey, usually they have had less fighting. The referees are usually quick to pounce on that, but for some reason there's been a lot of scuffles and stuff like that. So it just really just start cracking down, hit it before it actually starts and someone gets hurt seriously or killed.
No, I'm about as casual as it comes to a hockey fan. But I hate to say this. This has piqued my interest. All the fights, all the headlines, all the suspensions, and it's sad. I hate to admit it, but it does. So indirectly, I think this is almost good for the NHL. They're getting a lot more attention. The old saying, any PR is good PR. I mean, they're getting a lot more fan interest, a lot more airtime on ESPN, all that because of these hits. isn't that kind of sick? Like, shouldn't that be stopped?
Yes and no. I mean, everyone enjoys. I mean, even diehard hockey fans like myself and my father. I mean, we enjoy the hockey fights. I mean, it's fun to see.
Yeah. Okay.
I mean, so bringing people in that way is good, but you also don't want to get this idea it's a savage game where people are expecting just bloodthirsty hits and stuff like that. Where I mean, that'll take away the unbelievable puck movement and scoring and passing. It's just. It's a part of the game, but you have to define clearly where it's at and make sure it doesn't get overblown, I think.
I just think that there has to be a line drawn as far as hits go. If you're going for the puck, obviously you don't have to make the call. But if it's like a clear shot, you're just cheap shotting them on purpose, then you're going to have to do something about it as well.
Now, you mentioned the NHL kind of turning into the NFL, but can you really blame them, Jeff? Because you know what? Down the line, I'm a retired hockey player. I have still suffering from maybe a couple concussions that I had as a member of the National Hockey League, and I'm suing the NHL. Don't you think the NHL has to do something now to try to combat that, to try to avoid these litigations and lawsuits later down the road, and maybe that'll take away some of the entertainment value, but they have to do it to protect themselves legally?
But the NFL is just surrounding just one position. It's the quarterback. I mean,
Yeah,
who do you
you're
really
right.
have to
You're right.
protect in the NHL? I mean, would you say the NHL's most important part is the goalie? I mean, even though goalies don't really get a lot of attention, but that's the most important part, of the NHL. And you rarely see them get penalties, get in fights or anything. But I'll have to admit, when a goalie gets in a fight, it is pretty entertaining.
A goalie fight is the best thing in hockey.
But it's just the quarterback. I think you see a lot more injuries with the quarterback than you do at any other position. But I just think with the NHL, they have to really come down and say, okay, this is the line. You can do this hit, but there has to be a line drawn.
And I mean, there's the other aspect that, you're a player, you sign on the dotted line, you kind of assume the risk. I mean, so with all these players in the NFL, at least, that are coming back and suing the NFL, it's like, well, you made that life choice. You've basically chosen football as a career, and you signed saying you understand that I could potentially die as a part of being an NFL player. So should we really feel bad when these guys are getting hurt and undercut and they're losing money that way? Or
I mean, you can, but I mean, hockey has a way of policing itself. They have the agitators who are just going around, trying to start fights, and they have the enforcers, and the enforcers make sure the star players don't get hurt. And if you hit somebody, you're going to pay for it. You know that. And I mean, there's a couple books actually done by it. But when you have a category in your sport labeled hits, where it's actually the keep statistics of it, I mean, you know what you come into. And when you're a Sidney Crosby or Jonathan Toews, where you miss months or, in fact, equivalent of a season, you know that. But it's just you had to trust that others are going to be clean and playing. Otherwise, it is going to invoke some fear in star players.
And the other thing is got to say is, what if somebody from the Saints actually paid them to actually take them out? That's another thing you got to worry about. Is there an actual bounty on some of these players as well?
You know what? It's a fine line, and it's a fun topic to debate. Obviously, we went in for a few minutes there. Let's switch gears now to Major League Baseball. The Washington Nationals lead the NL East, and the LA Dodgers lead the NL West. I guess, which team do you see maintaining their success throughout the rest of the season, or do you have any other surprise teams that maybe will turn it around here?
The Dodgers. The Dodgers will win. If we're just taking it out of those two.
Sure.
I mean, the Nationals, they have great young pitching. I mean, they have Bryce Harper, I believe, down in AAA. He's ready to go whenever, but you still have the Phillies, who aren't going to hit like this for the rest of the season.
True.
You have the Braves, who you don't know who could do, and the Mets have been surprising as well. Just the NL West, when I look at it, you really never know which way it's going to go every season. I mean, the Rockies could be good or the Diamondbacks could be good, but just the Dodgers, especially seeing that the Frank McCourt thing's out of the way where they can streamline things now, I think that they have the best chance out of those two to win.
Yeah, I agree. I think the Dodgers have the best shot to win that NL West because, I mean, as you mentioned, the Diamondbacks have always been good. You don't know if the Rockies are going to get hot or anything. And the Giants have kind of fallen off ever since they won the World Series back in 2010. I mean, they are built on pitching, but you can't name one guy in that offense who's just...
They're only built on pitching.
Yeah, they're only built on pitching. When you look in the NL East, that can go either way. I mean, the Phillies have always been favorites to go to the World Series. The Mets have been surprising. Watch out for the Braves. When they get Tim Hudson back, they're going to be an even better team.
Yeah.
And you don't know what about the Marlins, if Ozzie Guillen is going to keep his mouth shut or not. So the Marlins definitely have been favorites as well.
So you guys are both saying because of the product of their divisions that the Dodgers have the better chance. I mean, historically, though, the West, as you mentioned, has been up in the air. So the Rockies usually make their September run. The Giants, they were world champions just 2 years ago. So both these divisions have other good teams, so it's kind of tough to gauge, but it's fun to see teams like this that have historically been the bottom half of their divisions really step up and have a good start.
Yeah, I mean, recently, especially in the past 5 years or so, the Dodgers have been there. I mean, they've made the playoffs a couple times. The Nationals, they don't have that kind of culture. No one really has that experience in that organization. So, whereas, Andre Athier's been to the playoffs numerous times, Steven Strasburg never has been. So it's just kind of, there's experience there, and I would trust them a little bit more than Washington. Quickly
with the Nationals, I know Steven Strasburg is on a strict innings limit. I believe it's like 160 or whatever, maybe give or take a few innings. If you're in a playoff hunt, are you honestly going to say go home and don't pitch again the rest of the season?
I would say no, because this guy is pretty much the ace of your pitching staff. So I mean, if you make the playoffs, which again they do have a good shot, but if they keep it up,
especially with the extra wild card.
Yeah, especially with that extra wild card in there, it's like okay, you can go 6-7 innings. And because we probably know that's pretty much where you're going to pitch all season, I would just keep them the same way if they get into the playoffs.
Yeah, no, I completely agree.
Okay, fair enough. We're going to step aside one last time, but when we return, we'll talk about the Boston Red Sox skipper as well as the NBA. You're watching Valpo Sports Night. Stay tuned.
Hi everybody, I'm Dick Vitale of ESPN, and I'm on VUTV. It's awesome, baby, with a capital A.
I'm Connor Lott, and I'm on VUTV.
I'm Nick Lindicky, and I'm on VUTV.
I'm President Heckler, and I'm on VUTV.
I'm Jeff Lang, General Manager of WVUR, and I'm on VUTV.
We're the Career Center, and we're on VUTV.
Back here on Valpo Sports Night for our final segment. Again, Colin and Jeff here with me. Bobby Valentine has come under a lot of early season scrutiny as manager of the Boston Red Sox, to be expected, I guess. Does he last a full season in Beantown?
You kind of have to expect it, because I don't think you've ever seen a manager come in for his first season and get fired about a quarter of the way through, unless some miracle happens. I just think he's their only option, because who else do they have on that team who can really take over? I mean, you definitely don't want to bring Terry Francona back, because that would be a very, very awkward situation. I just think with Boston, I just think they're really aging right now, because again, they always have one of the best offenses, but their pitching is just down. I mean, they're last in the they're towards the bottom of the league in ERA. I mean, especially when you have pitchers like with Josh Beckett and you bring in John Lackey from the Angels. I mean, he's been very disappointing ever since he signed. I just don't see him. I just don't see him firing this early in the year.
Okay.
Yeah, when Jacoby gets hurt, especially, I mean, that's basically the best player on the roster. It's just, I don't know, coming from a standpoint where I'm not really, I don't follow Boston all that much. It always confused me why they got, cleared house after that massive choke. Now, I understood that, but before that, you were in the hunt every single year. I understand, they need new things to change, and for that reason, Valentine won't leave, because if you do that, it's like, who wants to come in knowing, okay, a manager who has had a 500 record for years just gets tossed, and then, a new manager gets less than a season to do it.
Right.
It wouldn't be a desirable job.
Do you like his managerial style, like maybe calling out players somewhat in the media? I guess he called out Kevin Youkilis last week. Or is this kind of much ado about nothing, Bobby V being Bobby V? You knew what you were getting when you signed Bobby V to be your manager. He's kind of a controversial character, but he gets the most out of his players. Do you have a problem with his managerial style, though?
Having had numerous years with Ozzie Guillen, I would say no.
Right.
It's been a while since Valentine obviously managed in the majors in America. He went over to Japan for a little bit, so maybe some people aren't familiar with his whole antics, but players do need to be accountable. I mean, if they're lazy out there, I want someone to call them out. If they go after a fly ball, just lackadaisically and drop it, cost the team the game, yeah, they were at fault. That is their fault.
Which that's exactly what Boston needed after last year. A guy like Bobby V. Maybe you don't need to bring in a player's soft coach that'll just let players do whatever they want, because obviously they lacked a little discipline last year, and Bobby V has instilled that, and that's come under some scrutiny. I don't know why, but.
Yeah, well, I just think it may not be what Boston was really used to, but maybe this is something that maybe the Red Sox need to actually to give them like a swift kick behind, because as like you two mentioned, every single year when they won the World Series, they've been the very top team. Then when they had that monumental collapse, obviously something may have had to happen.
It seems like though in Boston and New York, the expectations are high and almost unrealistic. Is that fair to say? Just all the fans believe that they should win a World Series every year, and if they do, that's ho-hum. I mean, that's what you should be doing. And, it kills the managers. They're always in the spotlight. They're always coming under question. Terry Francona with his marital situation last year and whether he was taking prescription medication, whatever. I mean, things like that don't get out in Kansas City, even in Milwaukee, but it comes out in Boston and New York, and the fans seem to rally around that and really pick apart the wrong things as a manager.
Well, especially if you're in like a top 3 market in the country, LA, Chicago, or New York, you are expected to be at the top. I mean, no matter
excuses.
No excuses.
Yeah.
You're expected to go out there and win because I mean, every superstar wants to be in a high marketplace.
Yeah. All right, guys, let's switch gears to the NBA now. There seems to be no clear-cut front runner in this year's season, in the shortened season. But what is your finals prediction?
I got the Spurs and the Heat. I just think the Spurs right now, they're playing unreal basketball. I mean, they've always been a defensive first-minded team. But I think the Spurs have a little bit of a tougher road going to the NBA Finals than the Miami Heat do because you have the Oklahoma City Thunder who are just playing unreal right now. But how is the relationship between Kevin Durant and Russell Westbrook going to be? Well, it seems like they are getting along right now, so I think that'll work because they've kind of stepped out of that dark horse role where they've been in for the last 2 to 3 years. So I think they're finally stepping out and say, okay, now we're going to be the clear front runner to go to the finals. And of course, since I'm from LA, I got to go with the Lakers. But the one thing about the Lakers is that they're playing very good without Kobe. I mean, they're 5-2 without him. Then when he comes back in, it's like, okay, how are we going to center our offense? Because right now, Andrew Bynum is playing like the #1 man in the league right now. Pau Gasol's doing his thing. Let's say Ron Artest, a.k.a. Meta World Peace now.
Ramon Sessions, big addition for you guys.
Yeah, that was a big addition, but the big loss was Derek Fisher. Because he is that leader that the Lakers need to go alongside with Kobe. I mean, Ramon Sessions has been playing well. That bench, which has been criticized the whole year, because when they lost Lamar Odom, who I think is suffering from the Kardashian curse. But I think the Lakers have a good shot. They've always been a clear favorite. Don't forget about the Clippers. You know, Lob City has been playing very well. So I think the Spurs are the front runner. With the Heat, they really don't have any other contention other side from the Chicago Bulls, who I think can definitely make the run. So I got Spurs Heat in the finals.
Spurs Heat, okay.
I got Heat in Oklahoma City just for the fact that I think the Spurs, even though they're hot, I worry about injuries, especially once, it's already we're playing every other day where, that usually never happens in the NBA. And I just worry about them, getting one too many injuries. And I want to say the Bulls in the finals. I really do. But with all Rose's problems, with all Dang's problems, you can't, I don't even know if, especially if Rose is out, if you can make it to the Eastern Conference Finals. It's going to be a tough road. I don't see any way that the Heat, with the Bulls injuries, that they don't get in. Oklahoma City, like I said, they're playing fantastic. And the Spurs, although I think they could make it, I just think injuries are going to play a little bit of a problem.
If we're comparing Chicago and Miami, though, sure, there's some injuries on Chicago, but then there's the mental side of Miami. Who you never know what team's going to show up in the playoffs. You don't know what kind of LeBron James we're going to see in the Eastern Conference Finals or even the Finals because he's pretty much stagnant all of last postseason. And the Bulls, again, if they get healthy at the right time, who's to say they can't make a run? I think they're my pick in the Eastern Conference because I think they've been doing very well without Derrick Rose. You mentioned the Lakers doing well without Kobe Bryant. I think that's a sign of a good team. You take your best player out. How well do you do for a 10-game stretch? Can you rely on someone else to take that late-game shot? And I think the Lakers and the Bulls have proven that they can do that.
But the thing is with the Bulls is that they don't really have anybody on that team aside from Richard Hamilton who's got NBA Finals experience. I mean,
that's true.
I mean, you look at the Miami Heat. I mean, Chris Bosh, hasn't been in the spotlight for a while. LeBron has been there twice. Dwayne Wade, he's got a ring. So it's like I trust the Heat more than the Bulls. Even though I love the Bulls' youth, they have a phenomenal team. But I think the spotlight is going to be on the Miami Heat. Can LeBron finally win the championship? And I think this may even propel the Bulls to get to the finals because again, I think that they're being overlooked because of the whole situation down in Miami.
Yeah, the big game tonight will be the Bulls and the Heat without Rose, without Dang. I mean, obviously it means a lot more to the Heat than it does to the Bulls, but let's see how the team does without those two. So.
Okay, guys, last topic here. Pudge Rodriguez has decided to retire at the age of 40. Where does he rank all time among catchers in your mind?
He's top 10, I think. I mean, just you play that much with, that high of statistics offensively and defensively. I mean, sure, he wasn't the most lovable guy, kind of controversial at times, but when you played at 40 as a catcher, I mean, that's unheard of. And he wasn't, I mean, he was DHing, but he was playing a lot in the National League with the Nationals. That you just don't hear about a starting catcher at the age of 40 with all the wear and tear still putting up, close to 300 average at times.
I think he may go down as one of the top 3 because he's one of the smartest catchers in the game. He knows the game very well. He goes to pitchers. He tells them about the different situations. I mean, 13 gold gloves. for a catcher, that is just unheard of.
A lot to do because of his arm, too.
Yeah, a lot of his arm. I mean, like I said, he's one of the smartest catchers out there. I mean, he has helped Steven Strasburg with his game, too. I mean, he's been in the playoffs plenty of times. He won a World Series back in '03. So this is he may go down as one of the greatest catchers because he may not have like the best of skills, but he was very, very smart at the game.
Quickly before we wrap things up, I know he was mentioned in Jose Canseco's book as using performance-enhancing drugs. Does that have a cloud over him, and do the writers not vote him into the Hall of Fame?
I mean, basically, who didn't use drugs back then? I mean,
so does he get in the Hall of Fame though?
I think he will, but I think since he was mentioned in Jose Canseco's book, it's going to put somewhat of a cloud over him.
Yeah,
but I think he gets in for sure.
I think, yeah, but it'll take a few years. I don't think it will be first ballot.
Okay. We're out of time. I want to thank Colin Terrell, VUTV Assistant Sports Director, and Jeff Larson, WVUR Sportscaster. I'm Drew Taylor. I want to thank you for watching. Tune in next week for an all-new edition of Valpo Sports Night.